Okay, so you know that feeling, right? You walk into a room, could be a big networking thing, maybe a family party where you barely know anyone, or even just, sitting down somewhere new, and bam, you kind of freeze up. You see someone you think, oh, I'd like to talk to them, but the words just sort of evaporate. Or you're talking and it hits a dead end and you're scrambling, like, okay, what now? Whoo! If any of that sounds familiar, I mean, you are so not alone. It's pretty much universal, this feeling. But here's the good news. The really powerful thing we kept seeing in the sources we dug into for this deep dive, being able to talk to people, connect with almost anyone. It's not some magic gift for extroverts. Nope. It's actually a skill. You can learn it. It takes maybe a bit of a mindset shift, a few straightforward tools, and yeah, the courage to actually try. So our mission today, let's really unpack how to do that, how to talk to anyone, basically, whether you're at that party, in a meeting, or just next to someone new, going beyond the surface tips.
Exactly. And we really want to get into those core questions.
Yeah.
Like, why does just talking sometimes feel so incredibly hard? It feels like climbing a mountain for some people. And how do we not just start the conversation, but actually navigate it, keep it going, and crucially, leave people feeling genuinely good about the interaction without feeling fake or like you're putting on an act? Our sources offer some really interesting clarity here, especially when that big mental switch from, oh God, what do they think of me, to something more like, hey, how can I connect with this person? That shift alone, research shows, it's pretty powerful.
Wow, yeah. Just reframing it like that, I can see how that would take a lot of the pressure off immediately. But let's dig into that first bit you mentioned. Why is it so hard sometimes? Why does talking to people feel like such a hurdle for so many of us? What's going on underneath?
Well, a lot of it boils down to fear, doesn't it? Usually it's the fear of being judged or rejected or just saying something dumb, the wrong thing. But if you look at the social psychology behind it, there's this really compelling finding. Most people are actually way more wrapped up in their own heads, their own anxieties, what they're thinking and feeling. They're generally not sitting there meticulously analyzing you. That's not just a guess. Studies show this again and again. We tend to massively overestimate how much others are scrutinizing us. We're all just humans, right?
Right.
And deep down, we all want to belong, to connect. That's why that mindset shift we talk about is so key. It moves you from self-defense mode, what do they think, to a place of curiosity, maybe even generosity. How can I connect? It completely changes the energy you bring. Seriously.
That's actually really freeing. Just knowing the spotlight isn't quite as blinding as we imagine. Okay, so you make that internal shift, great. But then comes the next big obstacle for lots of people. That opening line. We feel like we have to be incredibly witty or charming or say something totally unique, don't we? But what do the sources actually say about that very first step?
Oh, it's fascinating. The sources really push back hard against needing that perfect opener. Research, particularly in communication science, it suggests that agonizing over the perfect line, that's often a bigger barrier than not having one at all. What actually works best, statistically? Simplicity and immediacy. Just a simple, hey, how's it going? Or, hi, I'm your name, nice to meet you. That's it. Pair that with open body language. Look relaxed, maybe a small smile, don't cross your arms. And these basic greetings, they actually lower anxiety for both people significantly, often. You really don't need a comedy routine prepared.
Okay, that is a relief, honestly. So less about finding the magic words, more about just, showing up and being open. But okay, let's say you did it. You got the hello out. How do you then move from that into something that feels, like a real conversation, not just swapping names and nodding? Because a good conversation, it isn't about you just talking the whole time, is it?
Absolutely not. No. And this is where a really crucial insight comes in. A great conversation. It's measured less by how much you talk and much more by how well you listen. Cognitive psychology, communication studies, they all point to this. People feel most connected, most valued when they feel genuinely heard. The technique is super simple, but also kind of profound. Ask an open-ended question, not a yes-no one. Really listen. Then ask a follow-up question based specifically on what they just shared. So if someone says they work in, digital marketing, don't just nod. Maybe ask, oh, interesting. What sort of projects are you finding most challenging or maybe most rewarding in that field right now? That second question. It signals you're actually listening. You're curious. It builds a way deeper connection than just, waiting for your turn to talk.
Right. That makes total sense. We all want to feel like someone actually gets what we're saying. But what if you're doing that? You're listening, asking good follow-ups, and then, that awkward silence starts creeping in. That fear of just running out of things to say, that's a big one. What's the go-to strategy our sources suggest for keeping things flowing?
Yeah, that's a totally valid worry. And it's where this really practical, easy-to-remember tool comes in handy. It's called the F4D method, F-O-R-D. It stands for family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. These 4 areas. They're pretty universal topics most people are comfortable, even happy to talk about. You don't have to, interrogate them down the list. But they're great prompts if you feel stuck. For family, maybe, do you have any siblings, or are you originally from around here? Occupation. What got you interested in your line of work? Recreation. What's something you love doing just for fun, outside of work? And dreams. Anything you're learning right now, or maybe a place you've always wanted to travel to. People generally open up when they sense real interest, and 4D gives you these accessible ways in without feeling too personal too fast.
I like that. 4-day. Simple, easy to recall in the moment. But okay, even with great tools like 4-day, nerves are physical, aren't they? That knot in your stomach, maybe your voice shakes a little, you just feel awkward. What do you do right then?
Oh, nerves are completely normal. Absolutely. And one of the key things from the sources is that even the most polished speakers, they still get butterflies. The difference is they've learned to sort of acknowledge the nerves and work with them, not let them take over. One thing is physical. Try taking a slow, deep breath before you jump in. It genuinely helps calm your nervous system. Another is mental. Consciously shift your focus off yourself and onto the other person. What do they say? What's their expression? Focus outward, not inward on your own discomfort. And maybe the most liberating tip we found, don't try to hide the awkwardness. Own it a little. Research suggests that a bit of self-deprecating honesty, like, wow, I always get a little tongue-tied at these things, but it's really nice talking to you, can actually be disarming. It builds trust faster, makes you seem more real, more relatable. Authenticity almost always wins over trying to be perfect.
That feels incredibly freeing, yeah. Just be yourself, awkwardness and all, instead of trying to perform. Okay, so you started it, you listened well, used FOD maybe, navigated the nerves. Now, how do you end it? How do you wrap up the conversation and leave that really positive, lasting impression? Because you want them to remember the connection, right? For the right reasons.
It's a great point. The ending is actually just as important as the beginning for cementing how someone feels about the interaction. Insights from neuroscience show our brains, especially the parts dealing with emotion like the amygdala, they remember the feeling of an interaction much more strongly than the exact words spoken. It's the felt emotion that sticks. So to leave that positive mark, our sources really emphasize warmth and intention in your exit. Use their name when you say goodbye. It was really great talking with you, Sarah. Express genuine gratitude. Thanks so much for sharing that thought about whatever you discussed. I really enjoyed hearing that. And if it felt like a good connection, maybe suggest keeping in touch. I'd love to continue this chat sometime, or even just hope our paths cross again. These small intentional things, they lock in that positive emotional feeling way more effectively than some clever sign-off line ever could.
That's such a powerful takeaway, how you make people feel. That's what gets etched in memory. That's the core of real connection. Okay, so let's quickly recap some of this amazing practical advice we've gone through. It's a lot, but really useful stuff. We talked about shifting your mindset, right? Away from self-consciousness towards genuine curiosity about the other person. That's huge. Then, starting simple, authenticity wins. An easy question, a real compliment, a comment on the moment, no need for fancy lines. Then, the big one, listening more than you talk. And using those insightful follow-up questions shows you actually care. We also hit on that super helpful F4D method. Family, occupation, recreation, dreams is a way to keep things moving if you get stuck. And really importantly, accepting nerves are normal. Embracing your real self, awkward bits and all. Confidence grows with practice, with honesty. And finally, ending with intention. Using their name, showing gratitude, maybe suggesting you'll connect again. Focusing on that positive emotional takeaway.
Absolutely. And stepping back, looking at the big picture, it just hammers home that connecting with others, truly connecting, it isn't just, a social nicety. It feels like a fundamental human need. It really comes back to that key insight. People remember how you made them feel way more than the specifics of what you said. Which brings up an important point, especially for anyone listening who maybe thinks of themselves as shy or more introverted. Does all this apply? Yes, 100%. In fact, our sources suggest introverts often have unique strengths as communicators. Why? Because they tend to think before speaking. They often ask deeper, more meaningful questions. And they usually prefer those really substantial one-on-one conversations over just like surface level mingling. So if that's you, lean into those strengths. You don't need to feel pressured to be the life of the party or talk to everyone. Connecting deeply, genuinely with just one person, that can often have a much bigger, more lasting impact.
That's such a great point. A really crucial reminder. You don't have to be the funniest person there or the smartest. You just need to show up, be present, be kind, and stay curious about the other person. So as you go out there, maybe try putting some of these ideas from our deep dive into practice. Just remember this: start small, stay curious, and keep showing up. Because honestly, the world really needs more good conversations right now.